got a request to talk a little bit more about the internal dialogue, one of the things we speak a lot about in our book, The Invisible Spotlight. Managers are thrust into a lot of situations that they have no preparation for. The relationship you have as a manager with your employees is unlike any other relationship you have. So there are going to be a variety of conversations that you're going to get into as a manager that you have no idea how they're going to unfold. And for managers to think that they're going to be able to do this quickly and spontaneously is a myth. In fact, the biggest myth of being a manager is that good managers are able to think quickly on their feet. It's just not the way it happens. We all have that great idea, that great third word, that great turn of phrase that comes to us spontaneously. And it happens once every 200 or 300 years. It doesn't happen regularly. So to think that you're going to be able to handle situations with your employees without adequate preparation is like being an actor going up on stage and not memorizing your lines. You're thinking the lines are just going to come to you. It ain't going to happen. The internal dialogue is what a manager has to go through in preparing to meet with their employees, especially when you're preparing for a situation that's going to be somewhat uncomfortable. And a lot of the situations that we have with our employees, a lot of those conversations are moments of discomfort. So the internal dialogue is when you sit back and you think in very specific terms, what am I going to say? Where am I going to conduct this conversation? How am I going to get it started? What is the real point that I want to make? How do I think they're going to respond? What's the worst way that they could respond? How am I going to respond to their response? And how am I going to end this conversation? Am I going to wait till they're happy? I'm going to be willing to end the conversation when there's discomfort and there's unsettled business between us. The internal dialogue is something that managers do when they're driving in their car, when they're driving home. You ever see people mumbling to themselves while they're in the car when they're driving home? That's good managers preparing for the conversations they're going to have the next day. Sometimes they're actually going to write down some phrases that come to them because that was a great phrase. That's going to help me get through this conversation. You know, your parents always said to you when they punished you, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Well, managers can often say, I've had this conversation 19 times, you're only hearing it once. And we have to prepare for it. And the internal dialogue is the manager speaking to themselves in such specificity, with such clarity of thought that they go in there and they have anticipated mostly all the things that might happen in that conversation. It's the difference between the manager being good and the manager oftentimes being quite a disaster.